Welcome to Sunday Stories. I'm Michael Sanford. Over the next hour, we'll be sharing stories that celebrate the rich history, amazing people, and fascinating places throughout our region and beyond. 5, 4, 3, camera 1, start your push. Ready 1, take 1. That's how our director communicates with the crew during our productions. Today in our lead story, we'll see how local students are learning how to direct, appear on camera, and use other creative skills and techniques to share their stories in an immersive media production academy.
All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
The newscast is created in Center High School's state-of-the-art TV studio, giving students the opportunity to experience a real-world television production environment.
Here is the news you can use for Thursday, January 25th, 2018.
Probably the most fun is being able to work with everybody in advanced broadcast. We all work together pretty well. We do all of these crazy projects and we get help from everybody. Everybody supports each other. It's really awesome to be able to work here.
My number one job is just getting the students to care about what they're doing. And once they care, I just have to keep out of their way. All right, can we do that last sequence again? Right here.
Students creating and sharing stories later on Sunday Stories. We'll also visit with the Haggin Museum's CEO, Todd Rustaller, who introduces us to the museum's major works of art and collections that honor Stockton's hometown history, including the Stevens Brothers Boat Archives and a collection of Caterpillar tractors.
The famous Stevens Brothers boats.
Right here. World famous, all made in Stockton between 1902 and when they closed their doors in 1987. And we have all of the Stevens Brothers archives here at the museum. All the marine architect drawings, photographs, hull files on the majority of the vessels they built over that period of time.
Another thing invented in Stockton, the Caterpillar tractor.
Right, as some people say, Stockton's motto should be home of the Caterpillar tractor.
Rob Stewart takes us inside the Haggin Museum later on Sunday Stories. Bhangra is a traditional Punjab dance celebrating the harvest. It's often performed at weddings and birthdays. We'll take you to Yuba City, where students are learning the high-energy dance as it continues to gain popularity.
Now it's not just for only Sikhs or Punjabis. Now everybody is a mainstream dance. Because why is mainstream dance getting popular? First of all, it's a very cardio exercise. You burn a lot of calories. Then here started in early 80s. People starting doing Bhangra. They started doing Bhangra competitions.
The traditions and art of Punjab dance, ahead on Sunday Stories. The Sacramento Choir, Reconciliation Singers, Voices of Peace, is inspiring audiences through the power of music. Each year, the vocal ensemble of professional musicians brings the community together to help a different local charity.
It's so important for people to realize just how much need there is in their communities that goes unseen every single day. It's just not typical to give all the money away, but there's also nothing like it, and the impact you can have is extraordinary. And if we all did it across the country, just imagine how many people would be helped.
Singing for the community, later on Sunday Stories. A one-woman operation turns wool into yarn. The hardest working dogs on the farm. A stepfather and daughter tackle the coffee business together. There's a lot of focus on digital in everything we do these days, including in school. And kids are using digital media in their daily lives at a younger age. Digital media classes aren't just offered to college and high school students anymore. Immersive media programs are now helping students learn video production and editing skills in elementary school. The day begins before dawn for Vernon Bishop's advanced media production students at Center High School in Sacramento County.
We get here about 6:45. School actually starts at 7:40, 7:45, so we're here about an hour before everyone else is.
Good morning, Dell.
Good morning, Bishop.
The students are here every morning, 5 days a week, to produce the school's daily newscasts.
Right here. Keep going. Back up, back up. Let's just take it from the top. My zero-period class is the advanced class, where there's a lot less lecture, where I'm not giving them an assignment that they all do together. The students are pretty much immersed in media. All right, here we go. 3, 2, 1.
The newscast is created in Center High School's state-of-the-art TV studio, giving students the opportunity to experience a real-world television production environment.
Your school, your stories, the news you can use.
What we do every day is the news you can use. What it is it tells all of our students and teachers and parents what goes on around campus. Any basically news you could use.
So stay tuned because you don't want to miss this. Cougar Connection starts now.
Okay, let's stop. What's going on with all the cameras?
Camera one.
Camera 1. Okay, well, that was right. It wasn't on 1. It was on 3 the whole time.
This isn't just another elective class. Students have to apply to be part of Center High's Media and Communications Academy, also known as MCA. From sophomore through senior year, students in the academy stay together and take core classes with the same teachers.
You're building your story to that moment.
We do all sorts of cross-curricular projects. So for example, you might have a project about a historical event in history, and then you have to write an essay about it in English, and then you'll have to do a PowerPoint about it in Spanish. So it's all cross-curricular, and I love it.
The Academy is part of a statewide model called the California Partnership Academies. It's one of 340 academies across the state, offering subjects as diverse as business technology, health sciences, engineering and design, and media.
The Partnership Academy was an experiment to try to find innovative ways to teach students and reach at-risk students, keep them involved, and then get them into college, particularly as career focus.
While Bishop technically produces the newscast, the students handle everything else, from directing to appearing on camera.
Hello, Center High School. I'm Juliet. Here is the news you can use for Thursday, January 25th, 2018.
Probably the most fun is being able to work with everybody in that advanced broadcast. We all work together pretty well. We do all of these crazy projects, and we get help from everybody. Everybody supports each other. It's really awesome to be able to work here.
My number one job is just getting the students to care about what they're doing. And once they care, I just have to keep out of their way. All right, can we do that last sequence again? And I'll stay out of the way. And make sure you guys are on the right camera this time.
Center High's program became so popular, Bishop began looking for ways to expand it.
About 8 or 9 years ago, I started doing workshops for elementary school students to find out what kind of interest elementary students had in video production, and they're crazy about it. They love it. I met with the GATE teachers, the gifted and talented teachers at the elementary school, and asked them if they'd like to do after-school programs incorporating video.
All he had to do was say that he wanted to do something with TV production, and I was so excited to be able to bring that back to kids here.
Susan Erickson teaches the after-school media class at Oak Hill Elementary, just a couple of miles from Center High School. The district hopes to create a pipeline for K-12 students interested in media.
There are 4 positions, A, B, C, and D, and I'm A.
I did how to play handball instructional video and a documentary on how sunscreen affects coral reefs.
I'm working on something called CPR for kids, which is like most people think that you have to be older, like a grown-up or older than 21 years old to do CPR, but it actually doesn't matter how old you have to be.
These are 4th, 5th, and 6th graders who are coming up with these ideas. These students are from 9 years old to 12 years old. And they're working in teams, sometimes multi-age as well. Whatever passion appeals to them, we let them roll with it.
Right now, I'm actually working on one with 3 other people. We're doing a clay stop-motion video on car pollution and how it affects us and the environment.
Oh no, we're gonna move this way.
Mentorship is a large part of MCA. Not only do students help each other, but several of Mr. Bishow's high school students travel to Oak Hill each week to mentor Mrs. Erickson's elementary students.
Make sure you're talking to Calvin when you say, I'm working on it. So you say, not yet, but I am working on it. And you all just have to go back to where it'll say, wait 4 seconds. You know what I mean? All right.
It's really cool when the high schools come here because they are kind of like pros and they get to help us. So it's pretty cool.
I help them work on writing a script, figuring out all the types of shot angles that they want to get, and helping them go out and get those angles and all the shots and everything that they need. Help them with editing, publishing. I do the whole jig with them, and I love it.
When they work with the younger kids and help them teach, they become better, and they're more invested personally. So it's a win-win.
The school's newscasts are at the heart of both media programs. At Oak Hill, the weekly program is called the Otter Outlook.
Good morning, Otters. I hope you're having a marvelous Monday so far. I'm Kelly.
And I'm Michael. Welcome to
Our Otter Outlook is probably the most exciting thing that the kids get to do weekly because they're running a news show. And we have a news team that goes out and actually films in classrooms. All the teacher has to do is give us a call a day in advance, let us know about activities such as buddies working together, special art activity, science activity. Our news crew is on it.
Every week you're doing something else. So you can be the cameraman, the director, the teleprompter worker, or the anchor.
The hands-on skills, the teamwork, and the close-knit community not only inspired the kids, but the teachers as well.
Everything they come up with there has no boundaries to them. They don't see walls or stop signs in anything they do. And so that just makes you just excited to make sure whatever they come up with, it's going to happen for them. We're going to work real hard to get it done.
It's amazing to be able to look back on and be like, wow, I really have come so far because of MCA. Joining MCA was one of the best choices I've ever made.
That's it for the news you can use. Back to you, ladies. See you next time.
Later, history and treasures inside the Haggin Museum in Stockton. You or someone you know probably owns something made from wool. And while most of us know that wool is sourced from a variety of animals, including sheep, rabbits, and llamas, few of us have probably seen how the wool is turned into yarn. In today's profile, we head to Woodland to meet Markale McWilliams, owner and operator of Valley Oak Wool Mill, to get a first-hand look.
After I graduated high school, I had it in my mind I was going to go to San Francisco and become a fashion designer. And that did not happen. My name is Markale McWilliams, and I turn wool into yarn.
You might say that turning wool into yarn is the fabric of Markale McWilliams' life, and it's a passion she loves to share.
Why don't you guys come on in?
For Markale, working with wool was a seed that was planted early on.
Actually, I want to take that out. I remember coming to what was YOLO Wool Mill as a small child, I think maybe 6 years old. And all I really remember is being in the barn, and she had wool stacked from floor to ceiling, just bales and bales of wool. And it just was like, whoa, that's a lot of wool. After I graduated high school, I did attend California College of the Arts, but I did not major in fashion. I majored in textiles. Basically, at the end of the class, I was like, well, I know what I don't want to do.
Needing to figure things out, Markale joined a volunteer farming program where she traveled the world working on farms in exchange for room and board. After returning to Woodland 3 years later, a family friend suggested she revisit the old YOLO Wool Mill.
So I came here and I met with Jane, who was the owner at that time, and I got really excited and was just like, do you take interns or apprentices or volunteers? She was like, well, I have a paid position if you'd want it. And yeah, I wanted it. So I started working here and worked here for about 7 years.
Jane eventually retired, which opened the door for Markale to start her own business in 2017.
So I've got Jacob wool here.
Great, okay. Great, okay. Yeah, I'll help you bring them in. My average customer, it's typically women that have their own sheep. Yeah.
Yeah, well, in black and white. I sorted the white into one bag, and then the other is the mixed colors.
Good. I can process as little as 1 to 2 sheep depending on the breed and how much wool they yield. But I have people that have up to like 100 sheep sometimes.
Enough. So this will all blend to gray.
Right. Cool. Yeah, okay. Let me weigh that up.
She definitely knows her limitations for what kinds of fiber she can take, what kinds of products she can produce. And so she wants to let the customer know that and not take on something that isn't going to make anybody happy. Because I think what I'm going to do is skein them how I learned last weekend to present it for a sale product.
Okay.
And while customer satisfaction is always her #1 priority, Markale admits running a business of this size by herself can sometimes get a little overwhelming.
This is a one-woman operation, so I'm doing everything myself. I answer every email, I answer every phone call, try and be on time with phone calls, but yeah, I do everything from opening and closing. One of the things that's been the hardest is just finding help with these machines. This machinery is as old as 80 years old, and so things break down, it does happen, and then I have to fix it. So I feel like Rosie the Riveter. I just pick up a wrench, I'm like, we can do it, this is what we gotta do.
Starting any business requires dedication and sacrifice. Markale has already proven to her customers she has the chops to make Valley Oak Wool Mill a success.
What Markale does takes a lot of business sense, a lot of mechanical ability, and knowledge of the fiber. So it's not a low-level job. There's a lot of skill and knowledge involved in it.
Every small business is going to be hard in the beginning. I think it's going to be hard for maybe even a number of years. It is my desire to grow the business. Eventually I'll have to hire somebody, and I know that's expensive. I don't know how God's going to work that out, but it's going to happen, I know that, and I'm trusting in that.
We're so glad to be inside the Haggin Museum with Todd Rostaller, who is the CEO here. Good to see you.
Good seeing you as well. Welcome to the Haggin Museum.
Oh, it's been so nice just to walk around with you a bit and get a sneak peek, and now we're going to show it to you because this place is gorgeous. This is the Hull room.
This is the Hull gallery, yes.
And inside this gallery is home to one of your most prized collections, and that's just one of.
Well, the Haggin Museum is home to one of the largest collection of major works by the Hudson River School artist Albert Bierstadt.
Those are 6 of his major completed works. Exactly. That's what sets you apart.
That is true.
Okay, well, one of them hung in a very famous location. Let's start with that one.
Perfect.
Come on. This is the Bierstadt that hung in which president's office? I'll give you a second to guess. That's the second President Ronald Reagan.
Exactly. During his first administration, they could pick paintings from any museum. They came to us and they asked to have this to hang during his first administration in the Roosevelt Room.
Is this Bierstadt in the front?
It is. He painted himself in. You can see he's making sketches. taking a look down the valley. You have Half Dome and the rest of the absolutely majestic Yosemite Valley. And this is one of 5 Yosemite scenes that we have in our collection.
So why are Bierstadt's Yosemite scenes some of the most famous? Did he have anything to do with popularizing Yosemite nationally?
He did. He was very early on the scene. In the 1860s, he was in the park long before it became a national park. And his paintings were displayed back east. Got a lot of people thinking, you know, maybe I should hop on that train and travel for about a week to go see Yosemite. This is one of my favorite paintings in the museum. I grew up in Stockton, and I wasn't a big art aficionado when I was young, but I was always struck by the Yosemite scenes. And of course, as a kid, we would travel to Yosemite, and I could see all of the truth in his painting when I would actually visit Yosemite.
I love that. You saw the truth in his painting, and then actually you saw the truth in your life, because this painting and his works helped call you to your career.
Yes, they did. I hadn't thought about it that way, but yes.
If you were to walk all the way through that painting, looking up Yosemite Valley, and turn around, this is what you'd see.
With the sun going down, sunset in the Yosemite Valley, probably the most dramatic Bierstadt that we have in our collection. When visitors first come to the museum, if you were to watch them as they walk into this room, they're drawn to this one because it is so dramatic.
When you walk in the whole gallery, you see this right in front of you, this beautiful mantle, and it makes me think that this would have been a home in the past.
It makes many of our visitors think that this used to be somebody's home and it was converted later on into a museum. In point of fact, we've always been a museum.
And this was brought from?
This was brought from a home on Fifth Avenue in New York that belonged to a gentleman by the name of Louis Tira Haggin. And it is his name, Haggin, that is associated with our museum.
Now, why did they want to pour their money into Stockton and to here?
Well, that's interesting because Isla Haggin had married in 1924 a gentleman by the name of Robert T. McKee, an interior designer in New York who just happened to be originally from Stockton.
Okay, there's the trace.
That's the Stockton connection.
Robert T. McKee knew his hometown was struggling to build an art museum and persuaded his wife Isla to donate part of the family's $10 million estate to Stockton if a museum would be built and named in honor of her father. It worked, paving the way for the creation of the Haggin Museum.
I now want to introduce you to the Leyendecker Gallery.
Oh, this is beautiful. Those are the Kellogg kids.
The Kellogg's kids, one of his more famous advertising campaigns.
Wow.
He was hired right at the beginning of the 20th century to help popularize Kellogg's cornflakes. Leyendecker is really credited for helping to brand quite a number of products in the United States during the first 4 decades of the 20th century.
That's a long run.
A very long run. This campaign ran up until just around the time the United States had entered the First World War. And if you take a look at the faces, there are these winsome little cherubic kids that the whole point of this was to win the heart of the mothers who were then going to go out and buy the cereal. And why wouldn't you want your child to be as happy and as contented as these kids seem to be in eating a big bowl of Kellogg's cornflakes?
Would this have been during the beginning of persuasive advertisement campaigns?
Very much so.
This was a gift from Norman Rockwell to the Haggin Museum.
Right. And the story behind this is Norman Rockwell, the artist that most Americans most closely associate with the Saturday Evening Post, and this is a cover for the Saturday Evening Post magazine.
But this is a Leyendecker.
But this is a Leyendecker. J.C. Leyendecker was doing covers for the Saturday Evening Post long before Norman Rockwell, and more importantly, Norman Rockwell looked upon J.C. Leyendecker not only as a friend, but as a mentor.
The Haggin Museum is art and history museum on this side, and the famous Stevens Brothers boats.
Right here. World famous, all made in Stockton between 1902 and when they closed their doors in 1987. And we have all of the Stevens Brothers archives here at the museum. All the marine architect drawings, photographs, hull files on the majority of the vessels they built over that period of time. This particular vessel is a 26-foot runabout built in 1927 for a gentleman by the name of Herbert Fleischacker. And some of your viewers might remember when the San Francisco Zoo was known as Fleischacker Zoo. Well, that was Herbert Fleischacker. And he had this vessel up at his summer home in Lake Tahoe.
Another thing invented in Stockton, the Caterpillar tractor.
Right, as some people say, Stockton's motto should be home of the Caterpillar tractor.
Well, it would work.
Yes.
Because this is, known worldwide.
Exactly, because of the track type tread.
Why was that developed this way? Was it because of the soft land?
The land just to the west of Stockton, tremendously fertile. It's all reclaimed delta land, and the soil is a soft, rich peat soil. You can grow anything in the world practically there. The problem when it's wet, it is soft and spongy, and the big heavy machinery of the period had a tendency to sink down. So Benjamin Holt took a look at the problem and thought, I've got to come up with some mechanical means of giving more surface bearing area to these machines without adding appreciably to the weight. The oldest combine harvester held by a museum is at the Smithsonian, and it's a Stockton-built side hill harvester. The second oldest combine on display in the United States is our 1904 Haynes-Hauser harvester. This one right behind you.
How cool is that? So it's this one and the Smithsonian.
And both made in Stockton.
That is fantastic. This is a beautiful location. The Haggin Museum here in Victory Park in Stockton is just spectacular. I had not been in here before, and I am blown away.
Well, we want you to come and visit again.
I
And we
will.
want all your viewers to come and visit as well.
We now turn to the vault for a classic California heartland story that introduces us to some of the hardest workers on farms and ranches. They're energetic and intelligent, renowned for their excellent eyesight and intense concentration. Van Gordon Souter introduces us to the Border Collie, the world's premier sheep-herding dog.
Mitz, 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 come by, come by. The cowboys say a guy only deserves to have one good dog. So I've been blessed. I've had a bunch of them.
Meet Bill and Margie Scott, a couple in love with an amazing breed of herding dog, the Border Collie. While they occasionally take their dogs to county fairs, most of the time you will find them on the rolling hills of a sheep and cattle ranch near Willows, a town north of Sacramento.
What a face. Yes, what a face.
Border Collies, judged the most intelligent of all dogs, are most often found on working ranches. They're fast, agile, even-tempered, and almost frighteningly smart.
There's almost a way that they can talk to you with their eyes and their body language, and they read your body language so well.
Border Collies first went to work in the rough country where England and Scotland come together. They've been in California for the past 100 years. Bill and Margie have been breeding and training them for 20.
A border collie can do the work of several men and on horseback, and he doesn't get drunk on Saturday night and he doesn't wreck the truck. But the border collie is really a very efficient way to move livestock around on a ranch. A man on horseback and a couple of good dogs can do all the work that several men had to do before. Mitts! Cap! Stand still!
Bill commands his dogs with the words and whistles of Scotland, and his burr would pass muster in the Highlands.
Away to me is to the right, come by is to the left, walk up is bring the sheep towards me. Stand still. Cap, that'll do. Cap. When I'm actually talking to the dogs, it's in a whisper. They hear better in a whisper, much like people would listen to a guy that doesn't talk too much more than somebody that talks loud.
Okay, Fleishy. No asphalt, no air pollution. Come on out, enjoy the countryside. Let's go. I took my border collie Fleisch up to the ranch. He's great on a long hike or a fishing trip, but the only domestic animals he meets tend to be at cocktail parties.
Come on, Flash. Come on. Come on, buddy. Watch. Watch. What I'm looking for, Van, is for his tail to go down. Come on, buddy. Flash. See, tail's up, he's playing. Tail's down between his legs, he's working. It looks like the old adage, it's hard to teach an old dog new tricks, is maybe going to be true today. Come on, Joey, Joey, Joey.
Like all dogs, the training must start early. At 8, it's too late for Fleisch. Bill starts his pups when they are only a few months old, and some immediately show signs of having the aptitude.
See this little brown pup here? Every once in a while his tail will go down. He's thinking about it.
This is a dog I suspect will be either a good sheepdog and or a good companion dog. This dog has a personality. If for sale, these rambunctious pups will go out the door for $450. A trained, mature border collie averages $2,500, and the best of the breed can set a rancher back about $8,000.
Well, if you think about how long they work for you and how dedicated they are for you, it's pretty cheap labor. They cost you 50 cents a day to feed. There's nothing like the bond between a dog. Like a horse, it'd be real close when you bond to a real good horse. And they, you know, horses are something too. They really will do a lot for you. But a dog and a good horse, you can get a lot of work done.
Still ahead, traditional Punjab folk dances that are gaining mainstream popularity. Did you start your day off with a cup of coffee? According to the National Coffee Association, 64% of American adults drink coffee every day. And in 2015, U.S. consumers spent over $74.2 billion on the product. So it's not surprising that coffee shops would be the fastest growing niche in the restaurant business. For our next story, we head to Trail Coffee Roasters in Stockton, a cafe that grows and roasts their own beans.
I'm a baby boomer, and she's a millennial.
Don't include that.
And I mean, it's completely different, you know, worlds that we come from.
Bing is my stepdad, so sometimes we clash, but at the same time, I feel like we wouldn't be where we are without one another. We are a seed-to-cup coffee company, meaning we grow the coffee, roast the coffee, and have a cafe where we serve our coffee.
The business actually started 15 years ago.
Hey, how you doing? Welcome to Trail.
I was a roaster as a hobby. I had the farm in Nicaragua, and I had been importing coffee into the States for like 15 years.
Bing's time in Nicaragua began with a short trip in 1976.
I went for a month and ended up staying 2 years. It was exciting, you know, when you're 28, 29 years old. I mean, it's a fun time. I got a job, I stayed, and that's when I got introduced to coffee. And then, unfortunately, the Civil War came in 1978 when the Sandinistas overthrew the Somoza regime and we all had to leave.
The Nicaraguan Revolution kept Bing out of Nicaragua for over 2 decades. but it didn't diminish his passion for the coffee business.
Fast forward to 2000, we went down there with the intention of looking to buy some property, and we were able to find this mountain called Cerro de Jesus. So we bought the entire slope on the Nicaraguan side. So currently we have a 1,000-acre coffee farm. We have 70 full-time employees. During the harvest, we have as many as 500 people. We noticed that there's a lot of kids that live up there, but there are no schools. The closest school is like 6 kilometers away. So we built the school. We built the church for the local community. We're well known and respected in the Nicaraguan community where we are, so we take a lot of pride in that. Coffee that we're able to import and sell here, it's kind of helping sustain what we have down there, because it's in the coffee world, it's very tough these days.
It is a competitive market, but I think what we have is pretty unique and sets us apart from other coffee companies. I think the fact that we have our own coffee farm with all of our crops in Nicaragua, and then we import it here to our roastery in Stockton. We have 2 cafes. We have a flagship location located in downtown Stockton and a satellite location near the University of Pacific campus.
We've created a full-on bakery in the back. The stuff that's created there is just unbelievable, and I mean, that business has just taken off. I know how it started, and to see it today, it just kind of brings, a smile to your face, because we're not only a coffee shop, I mean, we're known for our baked goods now. We're doing more transactions. We're building a brand.
All right, thanks so much.
And that's part of the excitement.
Oh, it's so good. All right, thank you. All right, bye.
In addition to serving up coffee by the cup, Trail Coffee Roasters also market their brand in select grocery stores.
We work with a distribution company, and so they put us in a lot of grocery markets.
We're in about 400 stores
Yeah, 400
now.
plus. I'll have customers reach out all the time, who live in other cities, just saying how much they enjoyed the coffee, and the branding caught their eye, and then they brought the coffee home and how good the coffee actually tasted. Yeah, it's pretty cool to get that kind of feedback from people who aren't from Stockton. We're learning to kind of stick to our strengths. I get to curate all of our menus and the specials that we have, so I enjoy that, but it has been a learning curve.
I'm very proud of Gianna, what she's created down there.
And on camera, so I could show them.
Yeah, you can show
Play it
us on
back.
camera. Going against a lot of competition, and our sales growth there has been phenomenal. I mean, our little roaster is roasting 5 days a week just to keep up with the demand, so we're excited about that.
I think that if you're happy to have a business here and you're proud of what you're putting out there, then other people want to get behind that and support you as well.
Traditionally, we do Bhangra when farmers completed their harvest. They get together, they get money, they're enjoying, have fun. Whenever they tell them I teach Bhangra, oh, that's Bollywood dance. They'll say, yes and no. Because Bollywood is kind of different moves we do it, but Bhangra is just from state of Punjab. That's the part I need to define them. Left hand here, right up, but now it's shifting from not just from the Punjab. Then here started in early 80s, people starting doing Bhangra. They started doing Bhangra competitions. Now it's not just for only Sikhs or Punjabis. Now everybody is a mainstream dance. Because why is mainstream dance getting popular? First of all, it's a very cardio exercise. You burn a lot of calories. 2, 3, 1. But I try to use both Punjabi and English when I teach. If you're touching somebody, you need to move. Show me a smiling face. Over, down. And I use example, for example, if I'm teaching teenagers how to move, how to use this. Hey, have you played soccer? Say, yeah, this is how to kick in soccer. Use this leg like this. oh, there's some moves, how you play basketball, hoop, how you three-pointers, like do this. They know that.
Bhangra, I can say that it's like aerobic exercise, so it's up, down, moving your neck, moving your shoulder. But Gidda, you need flexibility in your body to move your hip and your hand. In Gidda, you need to have that face expression, your hand gestures, because you are telling a story. Here in this community center, we are starting a class for ladies and for the teenage girls.
Move, leg up, more up. Good.
It's a ladies' dance, and ladies usually perform at the weddings and before the weddings or any occasion where they get together, and they start with a clap.
Move your neck side.
They stand in a half semicircle. The lyrics has a meaning to it, or they are translating a story, or they're joking around with each other, talking about their mother-in-law or their husband. If you don't get that rhythm in your body when you're young, it's hard to get it when you are a teenager.
Actually, when I first did it, I did not want to do it at all. I was crying on the first day of practice, and my parents had to drag me on the dance floor.
Since I remember my childhood, I loved dancing. I had never done Bhangra or Gidda until I got married to Harjeet. Back in India, when I was studying, my parents, their main motive was just get higher education.
Because normal as Indian parents, they want me to be doctor, engineers, don't do Bhangra, they believe.
They really didn't want me to dance. I always used to wish, please God, give me a husband who will never stop me dancing. And when I met him, his first question was, do you know how to dance? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I got what I wanted. Our passion are same, our hobbies are same, so we really enjoy, and we spend so much time together too, because we both are together teaching kids, and I love it.
For those who are homeless, hope is often hard to find. In today's excerpt we follow Sacramento Choir Reconciliation Singers Voices of Peace as they give back to the community through concerts that inspire hope and raise funds to support Joshua's House, the area's first hospice care facility for terminally ill homeless men and women.
A respite for the homeless of Sacramento. This is Loaves and Fishes. It's not surprising to find the founder of Joshua's House here, Marlene von Friedrichs Fitzwater. At home with the homeless, Marlene has learned deeply who these people are.
Yeah, almost to a person. We've now interviewed probably close to 250 homeless men and women, and the main fear is to die alone on the street. So they already feel that they're forgotten and ignored, and nobody wants to pay any attention or talk to them. It just kind of magnifies that fear that they will end up dying alone.
One of my favorite parts of this job is meeting the people who work in these organizations, unsung heroes, all of them. And Marlene might be the leader of that pack. She is founding something. She's starting something brand new for which there isn't even a template really on the West Coast.
So tell me a little bit about your health, just generally.
Health? It's deteriorating. I can read the writing on the walls. I don't need a doctor to tell me. I can walk about 100 feet, sometimes 100 yards, and then it's like climbing the last 10 steps of Mount Everest and K2 at the same time.
What is your biggest fear about your condition physically, and being homeless? Like what are you most afraid of?
Where I'll be found dead.
So yeah, every morning right here we have about 200 folks waiting outside these gates to get in, to get a hot cup of coffee so that folks can wake up after a long, hard night sleeping outside. But we do our best to provide dignity and honor each life of all of our guests, because that's one of the tenets of Loaves and Fishes.
So this is a really beautiful wall. Tell me about all of those names.
Yes, so this is our memorial wall right at the hub of Friendship Park. We do this so that our guests are not forgotten. So many things in our daily lives are just not important at the end of the day, and when folks who have nothing, who have nowhere to sleep, who barely have enough food to survive, can still keep a positive perspective, it's really inspiring. So I'm the fortunate one for being here to be able to witness and develop these friendships. It's really an honor.
I served at Loaves and Fishes as a college student, and it was a much smaller organization back then, and walking there now, a decade or so later, the need is so huge, and the number of people there is so much greater. It was really quite shocking. So the impact of seeing how many names on the wall of people who had passed even there was just heartbreaking. Everyone, this is Marlene, founder of Joshua's House. We're so honored to support all of your endeavors.
Thank you.
So thank you for being here.
Oh, you bet. Thank you. So thank you all for being here and being interested in Joshua's House. This will be the first hospice facility for terminally ill homeless people on the West Coast, and the 7th one in the country. So people are dying on the streets. We lose now in Sacramento somewhere between 2 to 4 people a week, which is horrific. It's just horrible. I had a grandson, my first grandson, who at the time was about 32 years old. And when he was a teenager, he became addicted to drugs and became homeless. But we stayed in close touch. And so we would talk about the situation, people he saw in other cities where he would go to live on the streets, and people he'd meet who were dying. And when he died on the streets in Omaha of an overdose, his name was Joshua. He was an incredibly smart, loving, gentle, wonderful young man. And he was also a musician. So I'll just pass these around. You can take a look at them and meet Joshua. He was 34 when he died. He just shared a lot of his feelings and his pain and his suffering in words and in writing. So this is from one of the letters. Grandma, I have been thinking, this is hard for me. Grandma, I have been thinking about why I'm here. What's my purpose in life? I think in the big picture, the most important purpose for all of us is to love. To love ourselves, to love each other, and to love the earth. To practice love in all aspects of our lives every day with everyone, that's our purpose. And that was just his attitude. He was a very loving and caring and gentle soul who just couldn't get past the addiction, and that's what took him away.
A century-old warehouse near downtown is where Marlene's vision for Joshua's House is taking shape.
So this is the space?
This is the space.
Amazing.
And it's almost a 100-year-old space.
Incredible.
Before we started even thinking about it, I interviewed about 150 homeless men and women and did 5 focus groups with 35 homeless men and women and said, if you were dying and you had a place to go, what would it look like? What would it smell like? What would it feel like? And kind of their number one priority was to bring nature in.
Nature.
So to bring plants and sunlight and kind of natural things in. And the other one that they all said was, we don't want to be reminded we're poor and homeless. So to be sure it's a quality place.
Sure.
So just as an example, that entire wall will be a greenery wall
with greenery,
live plants.
live plants.
Amazing.
And then as you come in the entrance, there'll be a water wall, and there'll be a lot of kind of those features throughout.
It's amazing to walk into such an expanse and know the possibilities of what that will be. And the more we walked through it, she really painted a picture, and I could see the wall of greenery as she described it, and here will be the atrium, and here will be the kitchen. And by the time we were done, I felt like we were standing in amongst it already. A rehearsal is usually, we have a really great time. It is a chosen family of sorts. We have a lot of fun just being together, but then, you know, it's also very challenging, and it's an incredible amount of work, and I ask the world of these singers. The music is very difficult. The work that needs to be done during the week is extraordinarily huge because the standard of performance is quite high. The group is very talented, so I'm able to rely a lot on the singers to go off in little groups and work themselves and drill. And then as the season goes on, music really starts to happen. But in the beginning, it's a lot of work.
Laid my frown and my burdens down, putting on my crown on my way. Yeah, good.
Yeah, this is one of the prettiest arrangements of this song I've ever heard, and that's. I think the hardest, but also the most fun part of this job is picking the repertoire. We try to tailor every concert specifically to the charity so that their mission is highlighted. So, for example, we're doing Joshua's House this season, so a lot of our songs are about passing on, about the great beyond, about heaven, about leaving earth behind. This is a special, very special group. And not only are they extremely talented, but unified in the sense that everyone is there for the same reason. And everyone is there because they care about the community and they care to help the needy and they care to make a difference. So they come in very selflessly. This concert in particular, I think, will be meaningful in the sense that we're dealing with hospice care for the homeless. The impact of that is tremendous. I think by the time this is done, we will all be changed. Homelessness is absolutely exploding. In having conversations with them, we spend a lot of time talking and hearing their stories, and they would say to me, you have no idea what it's like just to not be seen. No one looks at me. Another man said, no one even knows my name. And I can't think of a better description of what being a stranger is than that.
I'm just a poor wayfaring stranger, traveling through this world of woe. But there's no sickness, toil, or danger in that fair land to which I wish I go. I'm going there to see my mother. I'm going there no more to Toronto.
Serving lunch to the homeless is one way to discover that we are all connected in the circle of life.
Will the circle be unbroken by and by, Lord, by and by? There's a better home awaiting if we try, Lord, if we try.
It's very eye-opening and it's also very humanizing. I think we are conditioned in big cities to just walk right by and to not see, and there's always someone asking you for money on the street corner when you stop your car, and I think we're conditioned to not look, and people just get very desensitized to the need right in front of their face and possibly build up some prejudices as well. They must be drug addicts. They must be out of their mind. Something must be very wrong. They're very lesser. How have they done this to themselves that they've ended up on the street? And when you're on the other end and you're serving them food and you look them in the eye and they're so grateful and they speak to you like there's no difference at all, and you remember that there is no difference at all, and it could just as easily be me on that side of the counter and them serving me.
There's a better home awaiting if we try, Lord, if we
To watch the full story, go to kvie.org/Sunday Stories or download the free PBS video app. I'm Michael Sanford. It's been a pleasure being part of your Sunday. We hope you've enjoyed today's stories and that you'll be back next time for another episode of Sunday Stories. Until then, have a great week.